Okay.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming out. It's such a beautiful night tonight. It's such an honor to be here at the Merida English Library, and thank you, Scott, for the invitation.
Yeah, we've had nothing but fun in our time here in Merida. We moved here 2 years ago. We bought our house on Calle 66. He says, hold my microphone closer. We bought our house on Calle 66. We came down and saw 20 houses in 5 days and picked this, incredibly beautiful house.
Which many of you have been to.
Right? And as it takes a while in Mexico to close on a house, that was January when we found it, made our offer. It wasn't until May that it closed, and we were on a book tour for a book that I had written, and so we couldn't get down here until July. So we've been here since July 2022?
Yep.
Yeah, right? So coming up on 2 years this summer. And it's really been the adventure that we had hoped for. But I will say that what we weren't quite thinking about was kind of being embraced by the community and having people discover and figure out who we are and what we do and be interested in that. And so it's a real treat. It's very nice for us that you would all come out and find out more about P. David and Todd.
So, here's our story. Unfortunately, we have a really cool animated logo which did not compute. So, also, everything we're going to talk about tonight, you can find on our website, which is ebhuco.com. which we just shortened from EbersoleHughes.com, which was problematic. But
spelling it every time we had to spell it. What ebhuco.com is an archive of everything that we have ever done with information on all of it. It was like writing a book, and we've done it since we've been here.
And it's not done.
Yeah, it's like a live animal. We can continually add to it, find more archival materials, put things up. We've been able to put up stills from all of our movies, the trailers from all of our films, links to each one of them so that you can go out and immediately watch them, but also our whole history. When I first met Todd, he was an underground filmmaker he had been an underground filmmaker in New York, and he had a huge body of work of films that were impossible to see. I mean, they were on kind of some old VHSs and some Super 8. We've had all of that transferred. He's restored it and gone through and put the audio back together on all of it. All of my early films from film school and forward are all on there as well. So it's really kind of amazing that you can go through everything that we've done since we were...
And people know we're filmmakers and writers, but not everyone knows that we're also award-winning tablescapers. And for 10 years at the Los Angeles County Fair, we had a reign of glory.
Terrible.
So we have each of our tables also up online, stuff like that.
Yeah.
We consider those art projects. So, and we were quite dedicated to that one. Yes.
And there's a lot of that too. I mean, all the way back to kind of early plays that we did, and so it's really it is like I was saying, it's a bit like we have written a book kind of about the history of both of us and the careers that we have had. I mean, neither one of us come from Hollywood families. Neither one of us had any kind of inroads to the business besides deep interest, desire, and we just kind of got out there and did it. I mean, you can say that I was in the business because my mother is a psychologist, and she was a psychologist in Hollywood. So, she did have clients as I was growing up that were inside of the business. But of course, I wasn't supposed to know anything about them or who they were, or there was no way to make any kind of crossover to that. So we just both kind of started and did what we did. I was an English major at UCLA. That's how I started, and well, this goes back to much.
This goes back even further.
Right. Well, and here it is. So we started, to some extent, both of us kind of theater arts kids wanting to, get involved in that whole kind of crazy, glamorous world. I went to Hollywood High School. They had a magnet program, and I was in high school plays and all of that, and hated being on that side of the camera. And as you will see in this clip, I belong where I am on the other side. When I was 13, I starred in a movie with Paula Abdul called Junior High School.
Okay, jumping jacks, begin! Who is that guy? I saw him this morning. He's a friend of Julie's. He's going to the party.
It was my first time on a movie set, and every time I was off camera, I begged the director to let me sit on the dolly, listen to the cans for the Nagra. It was really the first time that I learned that I wanted to be making movies instead of in them.
That movie is fantastic. It's, I'm a piece of wood.
We had been
Kind of a
together
cute,
for
70s
7 years, and there were terrible rains in California, and our garage was flooding, so we had to get all these boxes out of storage. And I was going through it, and I found all this stuff, and I was like, honey, were you in a movie with Paula Abdul? And he was like, I think I was. And then one thing led to another. It was just crazy. A friend came over. I just saw that at Blockbuster. You're kidding. And we went and found it, and sure enough, it was this little movie that was nominated for a Student Academy Award. It was an American Film Institute production.
Yeah, which is where I ended up going to grad school eventually. But it was a musical that was just like, a precursor to or right around the same time as Grease and, other things that were kind of being done at that time. The music in it is fantastic. It's done by the Baja Marimba Band, right?
Julius Wechter at A&M Studios. So it was like the Wrecking Crew was doing the backing or all the music.
The director was his son, and so he had his father write all of the music for the movie, and it's really quite fantastic. And there's dance, kids dancing and the whole thing. It's really fun, and it's online at ebhuco.com.
And as you can see too, he was a teen superstar with that Farrah hair and the puka shells. So I don't know why he wasn't a bigger star. Which brings us to education.
But so I was an English major at UCLA, and they offered internships kind of, not necessarily around the world, but you could go almost anywhere you wanted to go. I chose New York, and I went there, and I was an intern at CNN, at the cable news network, which was just new. And they threw me into all different kinds of scenarios, but one of the things they did was throw me into where they created the packages for the video that was going to go on air. And it was the first time that I had ever really seen video come in, raw video come in. The editors put it together, and then next thing you knew, it was the B-roll for the story that was going on air. And I just completely fell in love with the behind-the-scenes process. My mother had always said to me, if you spend 2 years at UCLA, I'll let you go wherever you want. And so I transferred to NYU Film School and ended up winning their best film in 1986, right? And that was kind of the beginning of my getting involved into the industry.
And I wanted to make movies ever since I had a little movie camera and made Dracula Goes to the Orthodontist in the day toilet paper ruled the world. It was tired of being squeezed. But anyway, so I really wanted to go to the American Film Institute, AFI. And back then, that was a graduate program. And undergraduate film programs were virtually non-existent back then. But anyway, I was lucky enough to go to Columbia University in New York City, where, I was thrust into, I saw Andy Warhol And, all this art was still going on back then. So I just started making movies with the kids that I was going to school with, not knowing one of them would win a Pulitzer Prize, Hilton Halls. So I just made these little underground films, and then I applied to AFI and did not get in with that. So undeterred, I moved to Hollywood anyway, where I met David, who was just starting the American Film Institute.
So after NYU, what happens? I had one best film, but it was Out of the Mouths of Babes. I was 23 years old, didn't know anybody, didn't know how to do anything. I thought it was one of those kind of things. You win, you're discovered, and off you go. But instead, I toiled in the trenches, and nothing really happened. And I was working as an editor in New York, and I wrote my first screenplay, which is called Flowers for Albuquerque, and it was a road picture. And I started applying for grants and trying to, find money from anywhere that I could. This was the time of Spike Lee and She's Gotta Have It, and people were just kind of scrappy and in the street and making movies. And so you believed you could do it at that time. Like, it wasn't one of those things where you felt like somehow, you had to be anointed by...
Independent cinema was just about to happen.
It was exploding in New York City. And so I was, writing letters and trying to raise money and getting a fiscal sponsor so people could donate. And as one of the things that I did, I applied to the American Film Institute. And, this was now, 5 years or so after I had, done so well at NYU. And I thought, well, I'm older now, I know more. And if I go back to film school and do it again, then this time maybe I actually could be able to figure out how to capitalize on it. So I went to NYU grad school in 1991, and I ended up winning Best Film there with a film called Death in Venice, California. It was like a mashup of the original Death in Venice and taking place in Venice, California instead of Venice proper. And I kind of put it together a little bit with Lolita, where the young Tadzio was actually the aggressor in the situation. And that ended up playing, I don't know how, like 100 film festivals, and that was really the beginning of crossing me over. It's the first time that I ever worked with to me, a movie star. Shirley Knight, I don't know who remembers Shirley Knight. She was nominated for an Academy Award for Sweet Bird of Youth.
And Dark at the Top of the Stairs.
Right, and Dark at the Top of the Stairs. She won the Venice Film Award, Best Actress, and she was in my favorite movie, which was called Rain People by Francis Ford Coppola. I wrote her a kind of student fan letter asking her if she would be in my movie, and she wrote back and said yes. We were casting about at that time, and I had also written to another one of my favorite actresses, Elizabeth Montgomery of Bewitched, and she also said yes. And so for 24 hours, I was like, what am I supposed to do? I've got two of my favorite actresses in the world telling me that they both want to be in my student
And
film.
you got a personal phone call from Jane Greer passing, saying she was too old for the part.
And so then, we sort of slept on it, and Elizabeth Montgomery wrote back saying that she was so sorry she wasn't going to be able to do it. She was renewing her vows. And the reason that she was is that she had cancer and she knew that she was going to die. And so it would have been her last film had I put her into it. But Shirley and I remained friends her whole life, so that was a great, entree.
Yeah. I didn't go to film school, but I did continue to make short films when I moved to Hollywood. And some of the people in my films ended up having a little bit of a career. Lisa Kudrow, who went to be on a show called Friends. Mary Shear, who was on Mad TV, and she's on iCarly. She's still big with the kids. And Jenny Shimizu, who became a supermodel. So that was just being a waiter in Hollywood. But when I met David, it was finally a chance to sort of go legit and see how you really make a film with a huge team and a crew and all the disciplines. So I really...
Very, very extremely different in our approaches towards coming to making movies, which is that Todd was a guerrilla filmmaker in the streets using his friends who may or may not have, gone on to have some kind of notoriety. I was going that mainstream route of working through film school, and you're mocking what it's like to go on a Hollywood set. We had ADs, and we had slates, and we had everything that would be the trappings of what it's like to be making a proper film. Todd, and his friends were running around in the streets with a Super 8 camera and just grabbing it and making it happen. So we were completely, at different ends of the spectrum of doing it. We were both in New York at the same time, but did not meet. We've been together now 33 years this year. And we met when we were working. Each of us were working together in the FBI, in the food and beverage industry, and we were waiters at a restaurant called Border Grill
that served Yucatecan food.
Right.
How prophetic is that?
Right. So going to the American Film Institute, they actually say in their handbook, you cannot go to school here and hold down a job. You have to have the money to be able to attend. And so I was one of the only kids, I was 27, I was one of the only kids who was trying to work, and I was getting fired from every job. And my landlady was best friends with the woman who owned the restaurant that Todd worked at, Border Grill. And so she said, he needs a job so he can pay rent. and I trained, I was clocking out as Todd was clocking in.
The rest is history. But it was a dream come true for me, because I fell in love with him immediately, and he was just starting AFI, so I was fascinated by everything he was doing, and it was great because he let me tag along right from the beginning after we met, and he was just starting a new film.
Yeah.
So, right in the trenches, and I got, my film education with him, which was great.
And again, that idea that we were just kind of kids finding our way into making movies. The woman who was producing that film is a woman named Margaret Riley. She went on to produce Bombshell. The person who just won the BAFTA for Best Film for, the name of the movie is, it's the Zone of Interest, thank you. Right? The Zone of Interest, which is also nominated for Academy Awards. He was my other producer at AFI. Dante Di Loretto, my third producer, went on to work with Ryan Murphy on everything that he did when he was launching into TV. And so it's like we were just all a bunch of talented kids in this kind of perfect place, perfect time. And everyone just kind of kept moving up with each other and helping each other, and and that was the beginning of it.
And then we got married in 1999, and then we each made a feature film, narrative film. So that was a big deal for both of us.
So Straight Right was a film that the guy who's the star of it had written. He had come to the stage reading of that screenplay that I had said was my first screenplay that I wrote, Flowers for Albuquerque, and he approached me and said, I have the money to make a film, I want you to direct it. And so I said, well, I'll do it, but we've got to work together on the script, and you've got to really actually, because he had written it and was starring in it and was producing it, and I said, you've got to actually really let me, do my job. So this was my first feature.
guarantee it. Your dad's, I think, applies for it.
We had stunt coordinators, boxing, everything. And as I said, when I started that film, I was like, no one has even so much as slapped someone in one of my movies. And suddenly it was like, okay, we're making an action movie. People are, shooting guns and punching each other. And, it was a boxer who was getting his chance. And so all of the issues of his childhood were coming up for him. About the abuse that he had suffered, and so he started acting as a vigilante in his neighborhood and taking out the damage.
And it's a beautiful Technicolor noir. So it's this very dark story, and they did it by creating this very limited color palette. So it feels like you're watching a noir even though it's in color.
And so then off of that, because it was all this is right around all the year 2000, we went to the Cannes Film Festival for the first time, and it's the first time we began to understand the business, which is that not anything that I would have known then, and certainly most people don't know this about the film business in general, but it's it's like a rug trading business, which is that you come together for this convention at this beautiful place in the south of France called Cannes. And there are companies from all over the world, and they buy territories. So this film sold to, 12, 15 territories, Turkey, this, that, whatever, which puts together the money to pay you back for the budget and hopefully make some profit on the film. And it was released in the US and on the Sundance Channel as like an original movie for the Sundance Channel.
And the company that bought it was called Curb Entertainment. And if you were from California, you remember Mike Curb, who's our lieutenant governor. But he also had a pop group called the Mike Curb Congregation. And he produced the Osmonds and a lot of really cool people. So I was very excited to meet her.
Right.
And she knew a lot of cool people.
Yeah. Did they do the Carpenters?
No.
No, that's ain't it. Sorry. Yeah, anyway, so that was kind of our first foray into the concept of like the business of the business, and we began to learn how you put movies together. And so also though, off of this getting done, I then joined into a production of a friend of mine. Do you have Stranger Inside on here? No. So we did a movie for HBO. We went to Sundance with a script. We knew that the filmmaker was kind of popular with certain people. Her name is Giornate. She's actually become a very kind of important first black lesbian feature filmmaker ever. She had done a film called Watermelon Woman, and we were trying to help her get her next movie made. And so we went, took meetings at HBO, and ended up getting fully financed and made the film, with what was at that point the prize. I mean, for independent filmmakers to get HBO to finance one of your movies was just, as best as you could hope for. And so then I was getting to be kind of known as a producer as well. And Todd and I wrote a screenplay, and these other guys came along to kind of help us put that together. And we made Todd's first feature film, which is called The New Women.
Which is, you've all seen the George Cukor film, The Women, 1939, which has a pretty much all-female cast. So I wanted to do that, but turn it into an episode of The Twilight Zone. So, and it was great because Mary Woronov was one of Andy Warhol's superstars. She was in Chelsea Girls and a bunch of Andy's earliest films, and then she moved to Hollywood with Roger Corman and ended up being in Rock and Roll High School and Death Race 2000, and then working with Paul Bartel to making Eating Raoul, which is still one of the funniest movies ever. But we were at the dog park, and we would see her every day, and for a year, we would just walk our dogs together. We never exchanged names or anything like that.
Right, we were Killer's daddies. She was Daisy's mom. Right.
But then we saw a screening of the Chelsea Girls at the County Museum, and we were like, oh my God, we're huge fans. And what was it like back then? She was like, I was so high, I don't remember. I'm writing a book.
My memoirs. But so she was so she's kind of one of the first people that we worked with where, I mean, Shirley Knight was like that for me as well, right? Like somebody that I really, really admire. But Mary's become like one of our muses. We've worked with her our entire career as we make her do everything with us. And
she just turned 80.
Yeah, just turned 80. But so this was, a dream come true to be able to make a feature film of Mary.
We started filming the day after the Blair Witch Project came out, which was very controversial because it was digital. And everyone was like, oh, that'll never last.
Lisa Lestrada was living the American dream, ruled by the nightmare of a man's world. Adultery, drugs, sex.
It's cocktail sauce. Get a cracker. Fucking bitch.
Also starring 7 of the cinema's most exciting women.
Don't have to start getting loaded just because your husband's having an affair.
Anybody want a peanut butter cup?
I can. I can live without him.
Good luck with your baby.
What's your name? You have energy.
She calls the rain. Gaia's always right.
Since my husband was mayor, I'm going to act in his place.
Are you ready to die alone, Janet? I mean, is that what you really want?
It's supposed to be a safe place for the president in case of some disaster. Want to get its doing him now.
The rain brought the wrath of heaven on men.
What I can tell you is that these men are just sleeping.
He's not gonna wake up. Listen to me. Be it fish, fowl, or frat boy, by my calculations, if it's got a dick, it's sleeping.
Not since Noah had the world changed so fast.
Ow! Thanks for stealing my RV, you bitch. I am so stressed out. You have no idea how stressed out I am.
Get in the kitchen and get me some food.
No!
An escape to a new world that leads to a new hell.
If we don't procreate, life on this planet will cease to exist. My God.
I know you.
The new women.
I've got news for you, sister.
It's all about me.
The new women. In DV.
Digital video.
We almost got into Sundance that year, but there was another black and white science fiction musical. So, what are the odds?
And that had gone through the lab, right? So it was like,
Yes.
They had people
It
who
was
worked for a
hopeless.
movie and they said, but we have this other film.
But it did as well as a black and white. That we learned too. Then we went to Cannes with this one to the market, and everyone's like, sounds great, sounds great. It's in black and white. Colorize it and come back. It's like, we don't want it.
So then, it's funny because we've had many times in our careers where we've said, okay, that's it, I give up, we're retired, I'm sick of this business, and then something happens where it pulls you back in. And so I got offered to do these American telenovelas. It was for Fox TV, 130 episodes of television I ended up directing, 65 episodes each, Desire and Wicked Wicked Games. I ended up getting Todd a writing position on Wicked Wicked Games, which was the second one that I did.
And we both got in the unions, the Writers
Right,
Guild
it
and the
started
Directors
out-
Guild.
It started out non-union, which is part of how I got hired. As my agent used to pitch me, he said he's the most famous, unfamous director in Hollywood. And so they were like, oh, okay, well, he knows what he's doing, so, we can put him on set. And Desire was the series where nobody was in the union, and it got unionized while we were on it. And so then we both got ourselves in. Desire was, so all unknowns, except for that there is an actress in it named Sofia Milos, which a lot of people remember from The Sopranos. I guess she played Tony's girlfriend. Anyway, she's very cool, very glamorous woman, and she was dating Gavin Newsom at the time, but she was into Scientology, and so they told him that he had to dump her if he had any hope for any kind of, national career. And so,
He did.
Yeah, he did. But there was one day, Todd and I have been married 3 times, more than Liz and Dick, but we've never been divorced. And so the first time that we got married was in 1999 with 250 people. Our families, our mothers and our sisters gave us away. It was like a big, huge wedding. Then it became legal in 2004 when Gavin Newsom sort of went against the grain and said, we're going to let this happen. And so people lined up around the block. It was Valentine's Day / President's Day. And so when Sophia one day wanted to get off of set because Gavin had invited her to a dinner up in San Francisco, and the producers did not want to let her get shot out. Like, you'd have to shoot all in one direction, just shoot all her stuff, let her leave, and then it would be a hard day where we're having to shoot without her in the other direction, without the actress to play against. And I was like, the girlfriend of Gavin Newsom, she's getting what she wants. And so, because he had helped us to get married for the first time legally. And so we shot her out and stuck her on a plane, and then she promised that we would get to go meet Gavin Newsom, and then he broke up with her.
But we did work with an actress named Ileana Alexander, who is the mother in the far upper left corner. And way back then, this is 2006, she said, if you guys, you should really check out Mérida in Mexico, because it's a really cool city with an art scene and a gay population. And we Googled it, because the internet had come about, and we saw that you could buy a hacienda, which we're not even comprehending what that meant, with horses. It came with horses.
Right.
And it was $200,000. And we were like, wow, that's an interesting idea.
Yeah. And that was the first time that we had heard of Mérida, was when I was working on that show. And then Wicked Games was the follow-up. I don't know what you have on here. Do you have both trailers? Or
Just the Wicked Games.
Just the Wicked Games. And so Wicked Games stars Tatum O'Neal. And it was supposed to be Sean Young. Do you remember Sean Young? Right? But she was crazy as a fucking loon. And so she came down. We shot in San Diego. She came down and she stole the limousine from the show that had brought her down. She went on joy rides for like days. They didn't know where she was. So a PA was told that they found Sean Young at this hotel. And so he goes in and says, I'm here, I'm supposed to bring this woman back to set. And he goes into the dining room, they tell her where she's sitting. It is this very nice Asian woman named Sean Young. And he made her come to set. And they were like, that is not Sean Young. Anyway, she got fired. And so then they started sort of casting about.
And I was a writer on this show.
Yeah.
Which was a dream, because it was going to be a nighttime soap. So they wanted it to be real, like, kind of, Dynasty, very dramatic. So we went from Sean Young to, they said they were going to get Heather Locklear.
Right.
So we were over the top about that, but she was too expensive. So they gave a break to an Academy Award-winning actress who wasn't doing much, Tatum O'Neal. And we both were like, wow.
Yeah. The first day that I worked on set with Tatum, you have on the headphones, and it was that voice in my ears. And I was like, oh my God, it's Tatum O'Neal. And I walked over and told her, I can't believe that, like, after all of these years, we grew up together, so we're exactly the same age, right? But it was, Bad News Bears and everything that she had been when we were of that era. I mean, I grew up on Hollywood Boulevard. I had friends, and we would sneak in to see A Star Is Born over and over and over again at the Chinese Theater. So that was kind of like my stomping grounds, my world back then. And you know, when she's selling maps to the stars homes in Bad News Bears, it's like, you know, it could have been me and my friends. So it's always been like that. That kind of connection, and then there she was. Now she has what I call kick the dog syndrome, which is that people have been so mean to her in her life that she is mean to everybody who is below her. So she's very, very nice to the director.
And the director's husband.
Right. Yeah.
Isn't that cute?
I was the gay director, so she like, launched onto me. She was just sort of like, she wanted me for every scene. These shows were really interesting, the way that they worked, which is that there were 4 directors on each show, and we cycled in and out, not by script. We directed on every single episode. We cycled in and out on location. So let's say that we're filming here at the library and it takes place through all 65 episodes. I would shoot out every scene in this library as though it was one big feature film. And then we would go, you know, to another location and shoot. So we had 4 of us who were doing different scenes, and Tatum was always asking for me. Tatum was a scene destroyer also, which is that she would come in, she's excellent, I mean, she really was very good, but she would come in and she would refuse to do what anybody was asking her to do, and we were trying to shoot 20 pages a day. For those who don't know the film business, we normally shoot something like 4, right? You know, on an independent film, you might shoot 8. On The New Women, I would send Todd out with 8 to 10 pages to shoot and think they're never going to do it. They'd come back and they're like, we got everything. But so we were trying to shoot 20 pages a day, and Tatum would come in and just, you know, rip the plan to shreds, and whoever was working with her was behind, right? And so then it looked like you were the director who couldn't keep up. So I also became very good friends with the people who were the schedulers. She was number 1 on a casting sheet. The lead actor is number 1, right? And so I would go in and help the scheduler figure out how to put the schedule together so that it minimized number 1 on my week. and on the very last day of shooting, we worked together again, and she was like, what happened? Why didn't we work together more? I'm like, oh God, you know, Tatum, I just don't know. But we worked together. There's racing in this show. It takes place at a racetrack. And the first day that she and I worked together on the racetrack, and I was trying to, you know, we've got horses and things to coordinate and all this stuff, and I'm trying to tell her kind of, you know, what we need to do to pull this off. And she's like, you know, I was in a movie with horses once before. International Velvet, right? We're like, oh yes, Tatum, yes you were. Okay.
She said, I've never told anybody this, but something, I can't remember what. And I was like, well, I just read your book and it's in your book. She's like, it is. Anyway, she was fun.
This December, if you're looking for a warm, loving, family holiday show,
Why don't you just beat it? I will slap that smirk right off your face.
this isn't it.
You know what? That didn't hurt at all.
Really? Did you feel that?
Academy Award winner Tatum O'Neal is Blythe Hunter, and she's gone off the deep end.
You want a slap in the face?
But that's what 25 years of heartache will do to a girl. Now, for the man who abandoned her, it's time for a little payback.
He has got to lose it all.
She's insane! And she'll even use her own sons to get it.
It's gonna be fine, just like we planned.
Phase 3 is us marrying his daughters and getting our hands on their inheritance.
Revenge is a dish best served crazy. Wicked Wicked Games premieres December 7th. New episodes, no repeats, only on My Network TV.
It's a good boy.
So I don't know if for Americans remembering My Network TV, it took over for the CW, isn't that right?
CW and the WB,
WB, right? There were a
merged
bunch of networks, and they ended up merging, and so we were their we were the shows that launched
on
those
every
networks
night.
on every single
and a
night.
recap show on the weekend.
Yeah.
It was so cheap.
So I came home from that experience. That was all in San Diego. We lived in Silver Lake, which is sort of the east side of LA. And I had a summer off, and our very good friend Patty Schemmel, who was the drummer of Courtney Love's band Hole, came over to our house that summer with literally a gold box filled with Super 8 tapes that she had shot when she was on the road with Courtney, the band, living with Curtin and Courtney when they had the baby, etc. And she just wanted to take these tapes and get them to a stable format because they were on Hi8. And so I was helping her figure out how to just make that transfer, and watching all of the tapes with her, and she was telling me all the stories behind each of these different, scenarios that she had gone through. Patty was, as you will see in the trailer, playing stadium rock and ended up homeless on the streets of LA. That's her personal story. She was a heroin addict, and everything got completely out of control. There was a moment when she got kicked out of the band, and she got a $250,000 payoff, which she ended up just going through,
squandering,
and had nothing left and had to go to the streets. And so because we were good friends, after I had seen this footage, I told her, I think you have a story here, you should make a documentary. She came back, never made a documentary before, neither one of us, and said, I would love to do that, but I need someone I can trust. Would you guys do it? And so that's how Hit So Hard got born.
And I actually ended up working at the American Film Institute. I was their creative director and website designer for all their early web initiatives. So
Life Achievement Awards, he would create websites for, and with Martin Scorsese, Robert Wise, and again, we're, two little scrappy kids from the street, and suddenly he's like, sitting with Martin Scorsese and going through all of his archives and deciding how you end up presenting his career.
Right. I held the puppets from Sound of Music in Robert Wise's office. But anyway, I forgot.
You were saying that you were working at
right. And in 2008, I left and started working full time with David on this. We took a leap of faith, right? Quitting my very good job. And not specifically, but we ended up working on this for the next 4 years.
Yeah. Well, I had a dream back then, and you will not be surprised to know that documentary filmmakers do not make a lot of money. But what I was very acutely aware of at the time was how to make money in real estate. And so I had this dream, which was to buy Todd back from trading time for money. I said, why can't we figure out a way to lead our lives where what we do every day is our work, what we are, who we are, and do it. And so through some sort of machinations of, buying houses, selling houses, fixing them up, and moving on, every time we move, we would make money, I found a way to say, Todd, I think that you can leave your day job. And this was the movie where that began. This movie, again, we had never made a documentary before, and we knew we had kind of a rocket in a bottle. We had never before seen footage of Kurt and Courtney with their baby, Courtney on tour, Patty telling us all these sort of intimate stories.
And we've been playing at home, making little kind of independent short films for fun. So we had invested in a camera and some sound equipment. So we actually could make a little movie on our own.
Yeah.
So we were figuring that's all you need.
A lot of the footage that's in it. It's just, it was just me and him. We would go together to interview people and film them. It's the last time we did that. Because we went to film Courtney Love. 2:00 in the morning. We had an 8 p.m. appointment to film Courtney Love in New York. She had, for 2 years, skipped out on getting interviews.
The interview's tomorrow. Oh, Courtney moved to New York.
Right,
we were in LA.
Her assistant, right? It's like, she got on a plane, she moved to New York. And so we finally, it was Fashion Week in New York, and we knew that she would be there and wouldn't leave.
Cornered her.
And we went to her hotel room to film her. It was 8:00 when we arrived, and she didn't let us up into the room until 2 o'clock in the morning, and we were like, well, we're not leaving. Like, we're going to stay here until we get the Courtney Love interview, because the movie was nothing without her. Like, she was agreeing to do it. It was just getting her in a room and getting her to do it.
And gave us music rights gratis.
Yeah, she gave all the music rights to the film. In fact, you know, these companies that own the rights to big artists, catalog, will not let the artist give away their music. So Courtney had signed a piece of paper, Courtney Love, and like given us the rights to the music, and the company was like, this, you know, she can't do that. And so we were trying to figure out how to negotiate with them. Courtney got wind of that and called them up and bitched them out, or said the next day we had all the rights for free. So she was very supportive of the movie, Patty especially, and really helped us to pull the whole thing together in the end. But getting her in a room was quite enough. We thought, when we left the room that night, we thought, oh my God, we may have just gotten the last interview of Courtney Love. She was so on the edge. She, what's that story about the going through her little chest?
Oh, Patty told us, do not have any technical malfunctions. Don't stop for any reason, because if you give her a chance, she'll get up and change the subject. So if she pulls out a cigarette, light it. But anyway, our tape obviously needed to be changed. So she was like, oh, what's going on?
It went
and we're like, we're sorry, Courtney. And she's like, I know, you guys have been waiting forever, but if this goes on much longer, Mommy's gonna have to open the safe and pop an Adderall, then things could get kooky.
And we're like, things could get kooky?
And we're like, I already got a big whiff of airplane glue under this chair. It's like, things are kooky enough.
Yeah. But she did her own hair and makeup.
Very punk rock.
And gave us like one of the best interviews ever, because she was not guarded. It was just the two of us. We were friends of Patty's. Patty had come up before and sat with her for all those hours that we were downstairs. But
this premiered at South by Southwest in Austin, Texas, and got picked up for distribution by a company that generally does East Asian kung fu karate movies. So
the woman who was the president was a whole fan.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it happens. You find, for some weird reason, there's one person who loves your movie or loves what the movie is about, and then, you know, off you go.
It came out theatrically here, Japan, England.
Yeah.
And it was nominated for a New Music Express Award for Best Documentary, and we lost to like Led Zeppelin. We're like, what? Okay.
You see Courtney Love, a strong woman worshipped by countless teenage girls. But take a listen and you'll know who's really in charge. Another woman, drummer Patty Schemmel.
She's heavy, you know, like a girl that can really like hold it down and hit hard.
Women were told to sit down and close their legs and be quiet. And drumming, you're all like...
1995 Music Awards. Best album, Live Through This, Hole. Best female singer, Courtney Love of Hole. Best tour or show, Lollapalooza, Hole. Camera got started because I wanted to document, you know, all the places I was going and our shows and stuff. A lot of stuff is gone. But the tape survived. I was completely high on dope. I cannot remember much about it. Kurt used to hang around us because he hated his band. I really did. I mean, he hated those guys. They were real mean to him. Patty and him had a very special relationship, and you know, she was probably more Nirvana than I was. Being an alcoholic and an addict, that was my first love.
No, we were worried tonight about your daddy, weren't we? We thought he was dead.
I'm going for a pack of cigarettes and I ain't never coming back.
Suicide at the age of 27.
It was a really dark time.
After Kurt died, it was like
curtains were flung open. You're seeing the demons, you're seeing the darkness now, just keep looking.
Patty's like gone off the deep end.
What are we going to do? Are we going to stay together? Are we going to tour for this record?
People die, people drown, but then the boat kept going on. No, there are survivors.
So I was not a whole fan. I did not really know much about them. David knew a lot more than I did. So it was an education for me. I was still listening to Madonna and Bananarama. That's the kind of nerd I was.
Right, and I would be like playing my Nirvana and Hole records when Todd left the house. So when Patty asked us about doing this movie, the other thing that happened though was that we found that guy Brad Lovett, who was a super fan, and he ended up being our assistant editor, and so he went through all of the footage because he was just so excited to watch all of it. It was hours and hours and hours and hours of stuff, and he would flag it for us, and he went through and made a whole log of every single thing and who was in which scene and which songs played, because we cut together a lot of different concerts to make a song, right? We'd do it from different things, but Eric, the blonde guitar player who's in the band, he had board tapes from when they performed. He was the one who kept all of the music, so we were able to use all of the live music that was from board tapes, and then we could sync up performances, so it was kind of an incredible editing.
And we got to approach every lady drummer we could think of, from Mo Tucker from the Velvet Underground to Sheila E. And we got a pretty impressive, we didn't get those two, but we did get a pretty impressive array. So it was fun.
Gina Shocko, the Go-Go's.
And through Patty, we met a lot of rock stars. And I never would have guessed we would meet so many rock stars, right?
Yeah.
But they're just people.
There was a girl who had an early hit, and she came to perform at our Outfest premiere and kind of be Courtney Love, and she sang, I think she sang Doll Parts. And it was this blonde girl who kept her hair in front of her eyes, a girl named Sia. And we were all like, at that point she had what was the song that was the finale of 6 Feet Under, right? And so she was known kind of for that song. She sang that song that night also, but it was like all that kind of stuff was just kind of swirling around this movie. It was a very fun and heady time. Yeah.
But
we got the band back together, so they had all not talked to each other for 10 years, and through the process of doing this film, they became friends again, and they actually ended up at our premiere in New York. They ended up coming together for a concert.
So our Hit So Hard was done. A guy I grew up with, Tim Kirk, who I've been making films with since I was 12, had this idea with Rodney Asher, who is another guy we had worked with on another funny little film called Hot Chicks that I won't go into right now. But they had this idea about people and their conspiracy theories about Stanley Kubrick's film The Shining, what the true meaning was. And so did a lot of audio interviews, and then just through the brilliance of weaving together movie clips, let these Stanley Kubrick movie clips tell you the story these people are talking about.
Their obsessions, the things that they believed were true, like that Stanley Kubrick had been a part of faking the footage that we saw that was the moon landing, and that this film was his confession. That inside of The Shining, that this was his confession, and that there are all these clues if you watch through it,
the American genocide, the American Indians, also the Holocaust.
Right. That all of these things were like themes that he was embedding inside of his film, The Shining, and so the film, we were executive producers on it, and we have become experts at something that's called fair use, which is that you can use clips from copywritten material into your documentary, because documentaries are considered to be educational material. And so as long as it's germane to the subject, it's set up properly, and that, as they say, a sleeping judge would agree that this is necessary to tell the story in your film, you're allowed to use the footage. But it's a very arduous process that you have to go through with a legal team, and so we came on board to help them keep the vision that they had for this film. Rodney, good friend of ours, had made this film in his closet, not worrying whether or not it was releasable.
He was going to put it on the internet.
And when it got into Sundance, and it became a sensation. And so there was a bidding war that we were involved in, of that classic thing that you hear about different companies in back rooms all trying to screw the other company and get the film away from other people. And so the film had to be cleared. And so we came in to kind of help that happen and keep the integrity of the movie while we did it.
And people do treat you differently when you have a hit film. We also went to the Cannes Film Festival with it,
film, yeah.
And Alec Baldwin wanted to see it pronto, so David and I had to escort him and his new girlfriend Ilaria to the screening, which was quite an experience.
Yeah.
But anyway, the preview is boring, because it's a parody of the original preview of The Shining, which is the elevator doors and the endless.
Partly because one of the things about fair use is that if you fair use it into your film, that doesn't mean that you can fair use it for publicity. So we couldn't use any footage into a trailer from the movie.
So this is the beginning.
The poster that came out in Europe, at least in England, I believe, before the movie was released in Europe, said the wave of terror that swept across America. And Kubrick controlled the posters very carefully. Now, it made you do a double take. I remember seeing it in Europe. I was the Rome bureau chief at the time for ABC News, and I remember looking at it, the wave of terror that swept across America. What's he talking about? And you'd sort of think that he was talking about the impact of the book The Shining, maybe. The impact of the movie that had just opened over there, maybe. Didn't quite fit. The wave of terror that swept across America from Portland, Maine to Portland, Oregon, was the genocidal armies and the white men with their axe clearing it all and bringing in extractive industries, among many other good things as well. But that was the wave of terror that swept across America, terrifying, of course, the American Indians.
As you can see, what Rodney so brilliantly was doing here also was taking Eyes Wide Shut, taking a scene from that, cutting it together, because part of our argument for fair use was that it was the entire oeuvre of Stanley Kubrick that you needed to be able to view, to be able to understand, the point and the idea behind what the film is about.
Our biggest hit, top grossing film. I can't remember
it's on Expat TV right now too, actually.
What number it is in all-time top grossing documentaries, but it's in the top 200.
Yeah, no, higher than that.
It's higher than that. So in the meantime, our agent calls and says, guys, this is the gayest phone call I'm ever gonna make. Cher wants to talk to you. And we were like, right. No, she did actually want to talk to us, because her manager, Risa Shapiro, had seen Hit So Hard and thought she had a deal with Lifetime, but Cher didn't want a deal with Lifetime to do a documentary about Cher's mother, Georgia Holt. But Cher didn't want the intimate portrait type treatment. She wanted real filmmakers. So she referred us, and we got on the phone with Cher, just like that. And Cher, as you can imagine, is awesome. And, by the end of the phone call, her manager was like, all right, well, I'll go home and sleep on it. And Cher's like, why? Let's just do it. So
we were hired on the spot, from just like a 2-hour phone call with Cher. And then, they were like, so you need to come to the house, Cher's house. You need to come to the house, and we have a bunch of tapes, like we have things that are on all sorts of weird different formats and things like that. And at that time, we drove an orange VW Bug, and we pull up to Cher's huge
on
mansion
PCH.
on PCH, and we weren't even quite sure what we were supposed to do. So we park on the street, and we go up, and we rang the doorbell, and we're thinking there's going to be some little hole and they're going to shove the box of tapes out or something like that, that they're never going to let us anywhere near Cher and the world inside. And we said, hi, it's David and Todd, and we're doing the documentary on Georgia. And they went, oh, the boys. Boom, the gates are.
Paradise.
Right. We walked into Paradise. And there were people playing tennis on the left, and Cher's longtime publicist,
Liz
Rosenberg, who does Madonna, does everybody. She came out and greeted us, and they gave us all this family stuff. We had all of Cher's family photos in our house. They would call us up asking for things like.
They still do.
Yeah, we still get a phone call every now and then. Todd's like, oh, hi, Cher. I'm like, oh, Cher.
And Georgia died just 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
But this is when she was, 86?
86. And they said, the family were very happy about the movie. And they told us that whenever Mom was down, she'd put in our movie, and it would lift her back up.
But being on Lifetime, more people saw this movie probably in one screening than everything we'd done previously combined. Which was exciting.
Shall I tell them about the time that you were arrested for car theft?
Oh, sure. Let's jump around to all the
Mom, do we have to jump right to there? It was funny. It was
Okay.
funny. Can I tell it?
Absolutely. Well, can you? I think you may.
The police called me one morning about 3 o'clock.
Wait a minute. Back this up. You used to take me for rides in the car when you were 13.
I was just going to say.
That's a different story.
You told me
13.
she
and I
used
was
to
a
cruise
teeny.
Hollywood Boulevard
With my
when she was
sister.
13 with her sister and
I would
some
have
of
been 8
her
years
other
old.
friends. And I didn't know about this at all until they were grown. They were grown.
So we were at this bowling alley. We were in the parking lot, and these people were behind us, and they were honking. So my friend said, Cher, you know how to drive. Just move the car so these people can get by. And then they said, well, just drive around the parking lot. Well, just drive around the block. Let's go to Johnny's and get something to eat. And so now you can pick it up, Mom.
And so the guy, because he was scared because it was his parents' car, he reported the car stolen. So the police got them and they called me and I went in and he says, young lady, he said, we could put you in juvenile hall, right?
Yeah.
Juvenile hall. I said, look, this is all a mistake. I said, it really is a mistake.
And the one thing about Mom that was so great was that for minor infractions, she would get majorly pissed off. But for gigantic, like when I got arrested, if you did something huge and it was bad, she would just go, have you learned your lesson? And you'd go, yes, Mom, I have.
So that mugshot, Cher brought with her to the Jay Leno show, and we had created it. So
Her brilliant publicist, Liz Rosenberg.
It's Hugh Grant's, whatever they call that block, at the bottom, with some numbers moved around, and then it's Cher's junior high school pictures that we had used. If you look, they're not even from the same photo shoot, but now it's all over the internet as Cher's mugshot. And we're
How we've entered American culture. Another side note, David worked on directed a fashion video with a young model named Ron Goldman, who was murdered a week later. And so the footage was what you saw of him on news around the world.
From OJ murdering, Nicole Brown
And the fashion designer, lousy fashion designer, had not paid,
but he sold
it
CNN.
for $300.
Yeah. We called our lawyer and said, should we do something? He said, this is so ugly. I don't think you want to be involved in this in any way whatsoever.
But so anyway, after this, we were like, let's do something that's our idea. These things were falling into our lap. And we also had a career as Hollywood screenwriters, doing romantic comedies at first. We were with the Gersh Agency, And it was back when studios would buy pitches. So we'd write a spec script and then go out with a pitch. So we got to go all over Hollywood and meet a bunch of people and
get nothing made.
And get nothing made.
You get paid, but you get nothing made.
And after 9/11, no one bought anything that way or spec scripts, really. And
so we had, we wrote a screenplay about something that was kind of a passion project. Todd's mother had told him about, the movie goddess who had gotten involved with the Church of Satan and had been in a terrible accident because supposedly there was a curse that was put on her. And so he always sort of remembered it. He would tell me about it, Jane Mansfield, and her relationship with Anton LaVey, who was the head of the Church of Satan. We wrote a screenplay trying to do one of those kind of quirky biopics that were popular at the time, and it never, for various reasons. And so, because now we were documentary filmmakers, we decided let's take all of that research and put it into a documentary. And we had a private investor who had come to us who said, what's standing between you and your next film? And I said $250,000, and he said, okay, well, you have it. And so we started to work on Mansfield 6666.
And it was going to be a very different film, but then Lara Anderson, who shot my film, The New Women, was a professor at Leeds Beckett University and proposed giving us a fellowship, an artist residency at Leeds Beckett, to come and finish the film. We'd shot all the interviews, but we wanted to do these recreations, so they gave us a fellowship, paid us to come over, and we used their departments of animation, dance, performance, music, film, and just created this phantasmagoria of Jane Mansfield that we never could have imagined.
We had this idea that because so much of it, we call it a true story based on rumor and hearsay, and because there's so much of it that you really cannot prove, there is no footage, there aren't photographs, we thought, well, let's do, instead of recreations, let's do, modern dance,
interpretive
dance numbers, and instead of, news reports, we'll have performance artists read things to you. And,
well, both.
Yeah, so we kind of blended together narrative and documentary approach on it.
And we used over 100 faculty and students. So it was a very successful project for them. Yeah. And a few careers were launched, actually.
There's Jane Mansfield. She had a very short career, and she got killed in a very bad way.
A flaming, grinding car crash ended the bright movie career of famed Jane Mansfield on June 29, 1967. Jane Mansfield was a starry-eyed romantic. She had a passion for love and a passion for heart-shaped objects.
So what's the mystery? I'm just a perfectly normal American girl.
I remember she used to be on the Jack Benny show playing the violin. She needed to be noticed. That, like a junkie needs drugs. She had to have publicity.
Anton liked publicity too. Well, they were a perfect pair.
The founder and high priest of the First Church of Satan, Anton Szandor LaVey.
And in the 1960s, he's gaining a lot of notoriety.
So, stranger, do we have anything to talk about?
She's always liked that dark side of things.
Jane's big downfall was her addiction to attention.
I look like Jane Mansfield.
Her whole life became chaos and drug use and child neglect.
I look like Jane Mansfield.
Well, I'm sure they had an affair, which it would be unnatural if they didn't.
If you're going to be a sinner, be the best sinner on the block. If you're going to do something that's naughty, do it.
Was she really a practicing Satanist? I can't picture her slaughtering goats.
Along comes Sam Brody.
Anton was not fond of Brody.
Sam Brody was cursed by Anton LaVey.
As a matter of fact, he said he would even die in a car accident.
The only people that I would cast a curse or a spell on would be people that would get under my skin.
You can write anything when someone's dead. You can write a whole book of lies, and there's nothing you can do.
You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
So it is done.
in the U.S. and England, and came out in DVD
And yeah.
all over. And we premiered at the Rotterdam Film Festival.
And so I guess we should probably speed through a little bit now because we're getting kind of high on our hour here. So this was kind of a dream project for us, House of Cardin. It is about the designer Pierre Cardin, and we were just collectors of what he did. We loved his design aesthetic, and we mostly collected his lifestyle items. Didn't even really know that much.
We had his car,
his fashion world, but we were in Paris for the premiere of Mansfield, and we had an opportunity to meet him, and by, that was like 10 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday, and by 1 o'clock, the organization at the House of Cardin thought that we were there asking to be able to do a documentary on him. We sat down to have lunch with him, and we left that meeting going, I guess we're doing a documentary on Pierre Cardin. And so this
He was 95, and he had a wardrobe malfunction. But he was so charming, and we just really connected with him. And once again, journey of a lifetime, all the people and places.
How many $1 million did this man make last year? His name is Pierre Cardin. Pierre Cardin.
Pierre Cardin.
Pierre.
You know, Pierre Cardin.
Il s'est pas servi des livres d'histoire pour faire ses créations. Il a inventé un style.
C'est un architecte.
Un homme d'affaires.
A little bit of a sellout.
Une contradiction.
Homme de théâtre, homme de cinéma.
A control freak.
A label, a logo, a legend.
Bâtisseur, créateur, un génie. Génie anglais.
In a word, chic. What's not to admire?
Et lorsque Pierre Cardin est arrivé à Paris, il s'est perdu.
Ma carrière a commencé, ma fortune avec ce manteau rouge.
Et c'est ça qui a tout fait.
Je crois que la mode doit suivre un impératif qui est absolument subconscient. Il ouvre la boîte de Pandore, clairement. Si quand on la crée n'est pas portée, alors à quoi ça sert? Scandale.
People will always be inspired. He's one of the greats.
Et lui, il continue à créer, à faire.
Quel est ton secret pour la jeunesse éternelle?
Travailler. Ce que l'on demande à un grand couturier n'est pas de faire une très belle robe bien essayée et bien faite. On lui demande de modifier la face du monde par la structure du vêtement, par la coupe et par la ligne.
So that was just amazing. We met Pierre, and 2 years to the day we met him, we were in Venice, which is where he's from. He's actually Italian, in Casanova's Palazzo, which he owns. And we got a ding from Facebook, and it said 2 years ago today you met Pierre Cardin. We were there for the premiere of House of Cardin at the Venice Film Festival. It was the most spectacular thing, and Pierre came. He couldn't fly, so he took the Orient Express from Paris to Venice, and it took him forever.
Walked into the room, he got a standing ovation, and when the movie was over, he got another standing ovation. And a little bit like Georgia, the movie meant so much to him that his family would tell us that it's like, it's sort of like, in his last years, it really helped lift him up. And
Yes.
those things are, the things that you do it for, to some extent, knowing that he, had that kind of response to the idea that we had made this thing that was about someone we loved so much. It was kind of an amazing thing. Gossip about Naomi Campbell? None. She was perfect. We thought oh my God, she's going to come in and throw a phone at us or so, No, we had an appointment with her, what was it, 2 o'clock?
Yeah.
2 minutes to 2, click, click, click. It was Paris, and she comes down this cobblestone street, and she was, professional, nice, a dream.
But we had to hire a hair person to put a wig on her, makeup person, a stylist, and something else.
Right.
And I mean, she walked in.
Yeah.
they put the little dress on her. It was from the museum. It was vintage. And she walked out. She looked exactly the same.
Right.
But it was worth it.
And we had to pay $10,000 for her crew. Her, she didn't ask for anything, but we had to pay for her crew.
Security.
To take care of her. Sharon Stone also wears a vintage Cardin dress in this. And she walked in, we shot at our co-producer's apartment. She walked in, went into the bathroom, into her bedroom, and Allison came out and she was like, "Oh my God, I just saw Sharon Stone's Basic Instinct." She just took off her clothes naked in 2 seconds and was like, putting on this dress.
And she put on this vintage Cardin dress that was very short, but no lie, she sat across from David with her legs crossed, and we have stills of it looks like Basic Instinct, and she was doing it. And as an expert, because you don't see a thing, you're just like mesmerized. And it's in the film too, we couldn't help it, but you don't see anything.
People almost gasp sometimes because it's like it's right on the edge, and you think, "Oh my God, she's going to do it." Never happened.
And Alice Cooper has a very strange connection to Pierre Cardin, but what a guy, what a raconteur. He had stories. I mean, we could have put him in the film a lot. He had a lot to say too about men's fashion and just, Pierre Cardin brought him to France. He opened a theater and he loved experimental musical theater, which Alice Cooper was, a very theatrical rock show with props and blood and whatnot. So, but it incited a riot that kind of messed up the theater, and Pierre was like, "That's art." So, while we were making this, we were living in Palm Springs, California, where we were at a very glamorous party, and we met Trini Lopez. And his girlfriend actually was like, "Are you guys the filmmakers? Well, my partner has a very interesting career," and blah, blah, blah. And we're like, "Are you talking about Trini Lopez right there? We'd love to meet him." And then the host of the party waltzed over and whispered in our ear, "Would you guys want to do a documentary about him if I paid for it?" And we're like, "We never hear that." And Trini had already told us stories about Frank Sinatra, and the more beer he drinks, the better the stories get. So we were on board, and we interviewed him immediately. I don't know what possessed us, because we were still making Pierre Cardin, and we staged a live concert with him, because he was still vital. I think he was 81 at that time. But then finished Cardin, and then
we went to edit this film, and the pandemic started, and Trini caught COVID. We were supposed to show him the rough cut on, I think it was August 1st. He went into the hospital. He came back out. Got sick at home. They sent him back in, so we didn't come to show him the film, obviously. He had seen a bunch of concert sequences, a couple of the sequences of the film, but never had seen the whole rough cut, and he died in the hospital 10 days later. So we had made this document to his life just at the moment that we lost him. So.
And strangely enough, because we had planned to tour with him, because he was going to play right at the South by Southwest. Of course, he's from Texas. But without him, we were able to interview his girlfriend, who he didn't want us to interview before. And she laid a lot of stuff on the line about racism. And it really made a lot of things make sense. And
this also right now is on Expat TV.
Hi, everybody. I'm Trini Lopez.
Ladies and gentlemen, Trini Lopez.
I didn't think that any of my songs would be hits. That's for starters.
You really were the trailblazer.
Trini Lopez.
Great Trini Lopez.
Trini is back.
Trini is probably one of the most exciting young performers today.
Oh, he was cute as a button. Yeah, he was a handsome kid.
Like a lot of people from my generation, I discovered him through thrift store records.
Gibson came to Trini and said, "We want you to design 2 guitars for us."
This guitar I've made every single Foo Fighters record with.
Because people like my style, I guess, you know. My father kept coming in from Mexico to Texas, illegal, by the way.
People today do not realize what he went through because he was a Mexican and proud of it.
He said, I'd like to talk to you about maybe recording you. The only problem is we need to change your name.
Take that Lopez name out.
At that time, folk music was real in.
Now he added some Latin rhythm to it, and a fusion happened.
He was doing something that was so different than anything else that was being done.
And so I get credit for starting Latin rock.
The moment Trini hit with a power that was not too unlike the power of the Beatles, really.
Trini was like more popular than any of us.
I started hearing about a place in Hollywood called PJ's. They were all going to this place. Sinatra, Steve McQueen, Paul Newman, Natalie would always. Frank Sinatra sent one of his biggest record producers, and he would like to offer you a 6-year recording contract. So ever since then, I never did the Johnny Carson show anymore. Princess Grace, she was my biggest fan. He said, I think you should leave the movie. There was a falling out. My name is Trini Lopez. Now everybody calls me Trini for short. Thank you.
So that is currently running on, who bought it? Roku.
Yeah, Roku, Latin America.
And Paramount Plus
yeah,
just started carrying
I think
it.
it's on Amazon and all of that too.
Yeah.
Also on Expat TV here in.
And I guess we'll quickly run through. We also are authors. And the first book we wrote was very unusual because we had made a friendship with Nigel Barker, who was on a TV show called America's Next Top Model. And we just liked him a lot. So we met him at a party and we told him. And we started working together and developed a few shows, but then he got this book deal and he said, would you guys write the book for me? I've got to do Top Model in New Zealand. So he gave us notes and then we sat at home and we can hear his voice because we'd watch him on TV. So we know how he would say things basically. And then we'd read the book back to him and he'd go, oh yes, that's perfect. Or, you know, no, I wouldn't say that.
Right.
Or,
and it's this little teaser for the book is actually stuff that we wrote, and he's saying it.
He's like reading our script.
Hi, I'm Nigel Barker, and welcome to my studio, where we're shooting images for my new book, The Beauty Equation. What is beauty? Where does it stem from, and how do we obtain it? I've been in the beauty business for the better part of 20 years, both in front and behind the lens. But it was as a photographer with the mission of capturing beauty wherever I looked that the secrets to true beauty revealed themselves. The Beauty Equation sets out to slam shut Pandora's makeup box by unleashing 10 of the essential qualities that add up to inner beauty, and as a result, will help you naturally reveal your outer beauty as well. Regardless of what you think your flaws may be, what you possess is far more alluring, sexy, timeless, and powerful. It's called you. The Beauty Equation is designed as a workbook with the ultimate project in mind, a better and more inspiring you. In each chapter, we discuss an attribute of the beauty equation, where I will share with you my personal experiences and know-how. I'm going to ask you what you think beauty is. And together, we're going to discover your true beauty through your own eyes. Of course, there is a secret weapon, the camera. It never lies. Okay, hang on, Nigel, you want to say. I never take a good picture. Well, get ready, because that is all going to change. By taking a series of self-portraits and other instructive photo assignments, you will confront some of your inner demons and answer some simple, pointed questions. Together, we can work to discover your own beauty equation and reveal the inner, exquisite you. Beautiful. So, are you ready to work out your beauty equation?
See, we wrote a beauty book for girls because that's what we know. They always say, write what you know.
But Nigel was so cool. Every now and then he'd be reading back like, Joan Crawford only saved her bad reviews. He's like, oh my God, everyone's gonna think I'm gay. I love it.
And so this, right before we came here, this is my first novel, 99 Miles from LA. It's available here at the library. It used to be at Between the Lines, but now, they sell local authors stuff here, and so.
And it's in circulation. I mean, you can check it out.
Yeah. And also it's on, we're both published by a company called Pelicanesis, and so we're at every independent bookstore and all of those. This is a kind of gritty, hard-boiled novel where three people come together to commit a crime in Los Angeles, and they hide out in Palm Springs, which is 99 miles from LA. And I'm writing the sequel right now called 24 Hours from Tulsa. Without giving too much away, the main character at the end of 99 Miles from LA ends up in Mexico, hiding out in Mexico with all the money. So I'm using now.
Is this a tax write-off, darling?
24 Hours from Tulsa is the drive from Mexico City to Tulsa. So that's the next novel. And then Todd's book.
So I was obsessed with this queen of film noir, Lizabeth Scott, and for years obsessed over her, tried to find out something about her. I found out she was alive, but eventually found out I stalked her. And but we ended up becoming very good friends for the last 20 years of her life. So when David was going to write the novel, I was like, this is a story I've always wanted to get down and preserve, because she was a pretty extraordinary person. So it's a memoir about how we got along and how we didn't get along. We did have some butt heads over political issues and things like gay marriage, but it was very fitting that the first movie star I ever saw live was her rival, Lauren Bacall. They were contemporaries. They were right at the same time. They were discovered one right after the other in the very same way by Diana Vreeland, of all people. But so Lauren Bacall was filming a TV movie next to my high school, and I waited outside her trailer for an hour. Finally, she came out and I said, Miss Bacall, may I please have your autograph? And she turned around and said, get lost. I was like, whoa. So I was so happy I ended up befriending the good queen of film noir, not the bad queen of film noir. And if you aren't exhausted, we also fulfilled a lifelong dream of recording our boy band, the Ebersole Hughes Company Singers, and it's on all those streaming services.
It's a pop punk boy band record.
We'll play a little thing. But we do a T-Rex cover. We did cover versions of a lot of our favorite songs. A lot of them ended up being alpha numeric bands like the B-52s, X, ABC, Partridge Family. But we had a great time doing it, and
so I think that puts the story of the Ebersole Hughes Company, full circle from my early days in a musical with Paula Abdul to our boy band record in 2023. So just so that you guys know, our movies Mansfield 66 and 67 and House of Cardin are both playing this month at Salon Gaios.
Showing tonight at 9:30 p.m.
And we're going to be there for a couple of Q&As where we will do our comedy act, as we like to call it, and answer any questions about the.
There's a big fashion event at Salon Gallos this weekend, so it should be a fun thing.
Yeah, the whole event.
Yeah.
It'll be pretty cool. Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, that's our time, as they say in comedy. But I don't know if people have any questions or comments or anything that they wanted to talk or ask about.
What are you working on now? Do you have an idea of doing next?
We had a couple of documentary projects when we got here that didn't have funding and still have not come together with funding. But the one that we really want to do of those, and we're waiting for the producers to see if they'll pull money together, is The Village People, which would be so fun, right? Like, it would be a great, right up our alley, and something we'd really have a great time doing. But basically what we're doing now is that we're focusing on the books. So I'm writing 24 Hours from Tulsa, and Todd is writing his first novel that's like a memoir spin of his New York years.
So,
called I Kissed Andy Warhol, which he did.
I sure did. He was none too pleased.
What does it say?
There. Thank you very much.
All right.
Don't stick around to answer questions you want. And March 7th, the library is sponsoring a local author book fair, and both these people will be there presenting along with another dozen or so authors in the Merida area. Thank you very much.
Thank you.